In 6 million square miles of ocean, drug cartels launch stealth submarines they call undetectable, each nearly invisible, 90% submerged, carrying 8 tons of cocaine worth $200 million, bound for America's coast. Yet, in the one place they can't slip past, Florida's narrow straits, the Coast Guard catches them every time. How does this operation turn near-invisible threats into guaranteed interceptions? And how did Florida become the choke point that no submarine can escape? On November 20th, 1999, a Coast Guard spotter peered at a radar screen aboard a P-3 Orion, scanning the endless blue 225 miles southwest of Acapulco. What appeared was no ordinary blip. A vessel riding impossibly low, barely 3 feet above the water, almost invisible to traditional search patterns. This was the world's first detected cartel semi-submersible, built for one job: carry a fortune in cocaine under the radar, straight toward American shores. Inside, 4 men worked in darkness, surrounded by diesel fumes and the constant thrum of engines. Beneath their feet, 7 tons of cocaine, enough to net $200 million on the streets, waited for delivery. The crew believed the ocean would hide them. Cartel bosses bet millions on the idea that a vessel 90% underwater, with no visible wake, could slip through the world's most advanced patrols. Yet, as United States Coast Guard Commander Charles McMahon put it after the seizure, these vessels thought they were invisible. Our tech proved them wrong. That interception wasn't a one-off. By the early 2000s, Coast Guard teams tracked a surge of these ghost ships, each bigger, quieter, and more ambitious than the last. The stakes grew with every run, 8 or more tons of cargo per crossing, each trip a $200 million gamble. Cartels called them uncatchable, but the numbers told a different story. Over 1,000 tons seized since 2008, with every captured sub a blow to the traffickers' myth of invisibility. The question shifted from whether the Coast Guard could find them, to how Florida's waters forced every narco-sub into a corridor they couldn't escape. Florida's coastline doesn't just border the Caribbean, it commands it. The Florida Straits, a stretch of water between the Keys and Cuba, narrows to just 150 nautical miles at its tightest point. For any cartel submarine leaving Colombia or Jamaica, there's no way around this bottleneck. The geography itself creates a trap. Along this corridor, the Coast Guard has built a network of 7 strategically placed stations. From Key West and Miami up to Jacksonville, each post covers a slice of the straits. There are patrol zones overlapping like links in a chain. 80% of known smuggling routes pass through these waters. It's not chance. It's the only path that makes sense for traffickers trying to reach the United States quickly and quietly. Every station ties into a broader web. Intelligence flows in from the Joint Interagency Task Force South, based in Key West, where United States and partner nations share real-time updates. Cutters and patrol aircraft are pre-positioned at natural choke points, ready to pivot on a moment's notice. Sensors and radar towers dot the coast, their coverage, radii forming a lattice that leaves little room for error. Lieutenant Commander Maria Sanchez, who oversees operations out of Miami, puts it bluntly: "We don't need to search 6 million square miles, we just have to watch the right 150. Her teams know the currents, the shipping lanes, and the subtle changes in vessel traffic that signal something's off. Here, the battlefield isn't endless ocean, it's a narrow, inescapable lane, one where every move is tracked, every anomaly logged, and every submarine forced to run the gauntlet." At 20,000 feet above the straits, a P-3 Orion sweeps the water with a radar beam stretching nearly 200 nautical miles in every direction. On its screens, the ocean is a field of shifting patterns, waves, ships, and sometimes the faintest signature of a vessel barely 3 feet above the surface. These are the moments Lieutenant Alex Rivera lives for. He spent years in the cockpit, watching as a single, out-of-place streak on the radar can unravel a cartel's best-laid plans. Satellite eyes orbiting overhead add another layer. Commercial imagery, sharp enough to spot a 3-meter wake, is fed directly to the command center in Miami. Even at night or through cloud cover, thermal sensors pick out the heat plume of a diesel engine running just below the surface. Rivera points to a screen. That's not a fishing boat. Look at the thermal trail. 10 meters long, way hotter than the water. All of these signals converge. Airborne radar, satellite snapshots, and thermal signatures are funneled into a single data stream, painting a real-time picture of every vessel crossing the corridor. Before a sub ever nears the coast, its presence is already logged, tracked, and matched against known shipping. The hunt begins long before the Coast Guard cutter even leaves port. Inside the Joint Interdiction Coordination Center in Miami, dozens of screens flicker with data from every corner of the Florida Straits. Each radar sweep, satellite image, and thermal scan is instantly fed into a single, unified display, a common operational picture, or COP. Here, the difference between a stray fishing boat and a cartel submarine comes down to seconds. Lieutenant Alex Rivera demonstrates the process. One moment, a radar ping from a cutter 24 nautical miles offshore. The next, a satellite pass highlights an unusual wake snaking north. Within minutes, thermal sensors on an MH-65 helicopter confirm a heat plume inconsistent with any registered vessel. All of these inputs from air, sea, and space converge in real time. The COP isn't just a map, it's a living, breathing intelligence feed, constantly updated and shared across every Coast Guard asset in the region. Rivera's finger traces a route on the touchscreen where a semi-sub's faint signature is now tagged and tracked. Every decision, from launching intercept boats to scrambling helicopters, is driven by this instant, fused intelligence. The hunt moves from scattered clues to a single actionable target, long before the submarine can reach American waters. A faint thermal plume flashes on the command center's screen. Within 60 seconds, the alert goes out. Every asset in the sector pivots to intercept. Chief Petty Officer Mark Ellis, stationed aboard the cutter Resolute, checks his watch as the order comes in. He's got 45 minutes to close the gap. On deck, a rigid hull inflatable boat, capable of 30 knots, drops into the waves, its engines roaring to life. Ellis and his team launch, skimming across Whitecaps with the target's last known coordinates locked in. Overhead, a MH-65 helicopter hovers, its crew ready to lay down warning shots if the sub tries to bolt. At 1,500 feet, the gunner fires a burst across the bow, a line of 0.50 caliber splashes that leaves no doubt: surrender or face boarding. The semi-sub slows, hatch cracking open as diesel fumes billow out. Ellis's team draws alongside, grappling hooks ready. In less than 10 minutes, they're on the deck. Hatch breached, crew pulled out, hands up and eyes stinging from the fumes below. The boarding is swift and clinical. 7 tons of cocaine, 4 exhausted smugglers, and a vessel that never made it past the gauntlet. For Ellis, it's another victory. One that started with a single blip and ended with a decisive capture. Dr. Emily Carter, a leading analyst in maritime security, reviews the numbers from the last 5 years. On average, it takes just 68 minutes from the moment a semi-sub enters Florida's patrol zone to the point it's tracked and targeted for interdiction. That speed isn't luck, it's the outcome of relentless upgrades. The Coast Guard's Maritime Domain Awareness System, once reliant on manual coordination, now fuses radar, sonar, satellite, and thermal feeds with AI-driven analysis. This upgrade alone cut detection to intercept times by nearly a third, allowing teams to react before a vessel can vanish or scuttle its cargo. Cartel designers have tried to adapt, but they're boxed in by physics and engineering. Their diesel-powered vessels can't stay underwater for long. Each sub must surface regularly to vent fumes and recharge batteries, exposing a heat plume or a ripple, just enough for the sensors to catch. Attempts to build fully submersible, stealthier craft have failed to outpace the Coast Guard's layered net. The result? Over $3 billion in cartel losses since 2008, with the risk of interdiction rising every year. International partners now feed live intel into Florida's command centers, extending the detection web even farther. Dr. Carter's data points to a simple reality: every year the Coast Guard's edge grows, while the traffickers' odds shrink. The combination of geography, technology, and coordination has turned Florida's waters into a dead end for narco-subs. not just today, but for the foreseeable future. Right now, every cartel sub that enters Florida's patrol zones faces near certain capture. As long as technology advances and geography remains unchanged, this tactical edge endures, and so does America's message. In these waters, stealth is never enough. What do you think? Drop your thoughts below.